again to test games for everyone. This time, we're looking at Devil May Cry 5. This game is actually really well optimized, so for this video, instead of testing how much we can increase the power consumption, we're going to see how much we can reduce it while still running the game at 60 frames per second. Alright, let's take a look at the settings here. When this game first came out, it didn't support 16:10 screens, so even if you set it to 1200p, it's still 16:9. So for this test, we're going to use 1080p, and then for the frame rate, we'll lock it at 60 FPS. As for the other settings, take a look. Basically, aside from textures, which are set to high, everything else is set to medium. Alright, now we're entering the game. Take a look at the power consumption. Right now it's locked at 15 watts, and the total system power consumption is 25.5 watts. As for the frame rate, it's basically holding steady at 60 FPS. Let's get started. I don't know. Let's see, when we use the knife, there's about a 1 frame fluctuation in the frame rate, but it's really not a big deal. Basically, there's no problem at all. Hello everyone, right now the frame rate, well, the power consumption is locked at 10 watts, and the total system power consumption is 17.7 watts. The frame rate is over 40 frames per second. At 1200p, as we just saw, it might be a bit of a struggle to run, and as you can see, there's already some lag happening. So at this point, let's adjust our settings. Alright, here, let's lower the resolution. Let's drop it down to 800p and that. Just like on Steam Deck. Alright, then let's back out and take another look. Okay, now let's check the frame rate again. It's still at 10 watts, but now it's almost hitting 60 frames per second. Let's try a couple more cuts and see. When there are a lot of special effects, it drops to around 52 frames per second. But it's still playable. Yeah, about 52 frames per second. But we can still lower the power consumption even more. Let's go into the settings and turn down some of those special effects to see what happens. Alright, let's set the textures to medium and the rest to low. Set everything as low as possible. Then, bloom, this is bloom, turn that off. As for shadows, wait a second, let's turn off bloom first, and then turn off all these other effects as well. Now, let's get back into the game. Alright, let's check the frame rate again. Now, it's still at 10 watts, and basically, it's stable at 60 frames per second. Let's do a real test again. Ah, in the top left corner, it's still holding steady at 60 frames per second right now. Yeah, 60 frames is no problem. Alright, now let's lower the power consumption even more. Let's see how it does at 8 watts and 60 frames. Hey, no problem at all, no problem. Even at 8 watts and 800p resolution, with low settings, the whole device only uses 14.8 watts. With a 65Wh battery, you can still play for about 3.5 hours. Alright, now let's try going even lower, Let's see what happens at just 1 watt, because if we go any lower, it might be too little power. At just 1 watt, it can still maintain over 50 frames per second. Even at 7 watts, it can still keep over 50 frames, bro. Look, at 7 watts, it's over 50 frames, above 55 FPS. Let's try fighting and see. Once you start fighting, power consumption drops, and the frame rate drops, down to 48 or 47 FPS. So there's no need to test further. Basically, at 8 watts, with low graphics settings at 800p, Devil May Cry 5 can run smoothly at 60 frames per second. But later on, you might need to bump up the frame rate a bit, because some of the later levels have more complex terrain, so you may need to increase the frame rate and also raise the power consumption a little. But that's not a big deal, since this test is just to give everyone a general idea. Later, you'll need to adjust the graphics settings and frame rate to your own preference. That's part of the fun and the process. Alright, now let me show everyone a test with the highest power consumption and the highest graphics settings. Alright, let's go ahead and set the power consumption to around 23 watts, or just 20. It's easier to remember if we set it to 20, so let's do that. Now, at this point, let's turn up the settings. Set the graphics quality to the highest and the resolution to the maximum. And let's unlock the frame rate, okay? Well, 60 FPS should be fine too. All these settings, just max them out. Ultra, ultra high. Everything that was turned off before, let's turn it all on now. As for things like motion blur, you don't necessarily have to turn those on. This one adjusts the shadows, and this one is for bloom. Lens effects, lens flare, overall lighting volume. Change them, adjust them. Chromatic aberration shouldn't be enabled. If you turn it on, it'll mess things up. Alright, now let's take another look at the game. Okay, so now at 20 watts, this is already considered high graphics quality, and as you can see, it's still running very smoothly. Basically, the power consumption doesn't even reach 20 watts and you can still get 60 FPS, so let's lower it a bit. Let's try 18 watts. Alright, 17. Okay, now it's at 18. Still holding at 60 FPS? Haven't beaten you yet? Let's see if it can run at 15 watts. Alright, now it's at 15 watts. Wow, even at 15 watts it's still 60 FPS. It feels like with this game, this machine can handle pretty high graphics settings at just 15 watts, and the resolution doesn't even drop. That's really impressive. Right off the bat, there's a battle. Let's fight a bit. Look at the top left corner. While I'm fighting, the frame rate only fluctuates by 1 frame. Alright. Just now, when that missile pilot was ejected, there were a lot of special effects, so the frame rate dropped a bit, down to around 55 FPS, but now there's no problem at all. It's still perfectly smooth and playable. Alright, that's it for the video. This game really lives up to its reputation as one of Capcom's best optimized games back in the day. You can run it smoothly at around 15W, and even if the load gets heavier later on, bumping it up to 16 or 17W will handle it just fine. No issues at all. Playing in high graphics is just awesome. Looks like that's all for the video. Thanks for watching.